So this part will be of the detail, and don't mind the background. It's just a very hard model to review because of its size and the limited space that I have. But regardless, they give you 3 hooks with this crane, and they give you a 3-sheave hook block, and I believe of what is a 12-sheave hook block, a 12 or a 10, I can't quite remember. And then they also give you a little whip line block. I primarily display mine only with the luffer, so I use the little 3-sheave hook block, but you can use the larger sheave if you're going to display with all 10 parts of line that can fit on the luffing jib, which I have yet to do, but one day I will do that. Anyway, to get to what this part of the review is about, which is the detail, we'll start with the front of the carrier. And there are some things that I do have to say. So looking at the front of the carrier, you can see it is absolutely spectacular. One thing I do want to point out, and I don't know if you will be able to see in this review, but when I get to it, the tires are actually Michelin branded. Anyway, if you notice, one light is missing, and the one thing I have to say is those are extremely delicate, and I think the only way they'll stay on is if you display this model on a shelf and never touch it, because it seems like on everybody's, and I have even been told this, they do fall off, so you have to be extremely careful with those. They can be put back on though. Front of it has the foreign license plate since I am in the United States, and then it's got the 3 windshield wipers because it's extremely wide, and then it has the mirrors and whatnot. I very much like how they put all these warning stripes along the whole rig. I think that's a very big added plus, and it really gives a nice touch. One thing that I'm surprised about though is that they didn't make these doors open, and it does look very plain. You cannot deny that the side of the cab doesn't look plain. I mean, even if I show it right here, it just has a very plain look to it, and that's very surprising coming from NZG. Going on top of the cab and on top of the carrier over here, you can see it's very nice. It's a lot different from the driver of the carrier. As you can tell, it's much more detail. As you get back, there's more detail and everything. Textured up here, etched out, not all the way through, but etched. And the tanks over here, and your exhaust right there. And one thing I have to say is that the tires are extremely nice, and it's very hard to see, but if you notice right there, you could kind of make out the Michelin. It's very hard to tell even if you have the crane unless you put it in a very bright light, but you can see it is Michelin branded right there. And as you get over here, and this is where the outriggers would fold in when you would drive the crane to another job site, it is diamond plated texture, and it is painted silver. It's not chrome or anything. Over here, this is the boom mount when you would bring your boom down, I guess to reeve the hook block or whatever it may be. It does rest on the piece right there, and luckily it is metal, because if it wasn't, it probably would break from the weight of the boom. The outriggers, and I'm going to fold this one in to show you, are more nicely made than detail. I figured for this part I would also give the build quality. One thing I have to say is I have not had a very good experience with past mobile cranes with outriggers, because it seems like whenever you push up on a boom with stiff cylinders, all the weight is obviously transferred to the outriggers, and then the outriggers eventually fail. This model, there is no worry of that. The outriggers are extremely strong. They're probably the strongest part of the model. The beams themselves are extremely heavily made. Like I said, there's really no problem with them. You can see they have the detail in them and whatnot. And even if you look right on top of them, you can see it would have where they're like a shackle or a lifting point right there. Coming over here, it has the warning stripe right there, and then the piston for the outrigger. And if you notice, you can't see any threads, and that's a very big plus. I, for one, am very glad that they did that. It's not a cheaply made where you can see the threads or anything. And the way that it connects to the pad is simply with that pin, because if you take that pin out, it comes out of the pad, and to put it in, it just slides right in. But you got to make sure that you align those pins correctly, because if you don't, this will happen and you might be there for a minute or two. For now, I'm going to keep it out so I don't hold up the rest of the review. I'll tilt the cab back and then show you where it slews, which is over here. And you can see it even has a detail of the ring and the motors, which is absolutely fantastic. I really like that a lot. Below it, with the two axles over here, you have mud flaps, but unfortunately they're not rubber, they're plastic, so you can't really move or anything, and the axles have great movement. Over here there would be a ladder, but I believe I still have it in the box. I'm not too sure because it kind of gets in the way of the cab when you fold the cab in like that. So I put it on for pictures, but I take it off for everything else. Figured for the review I would just take it off. These railings over here pop right off. You actually put those on yourselves. And over here it has textured where you could step onto. It does spin very smoothly, as you could tell. The more weight balanced on it, for instance, if you don't have a boom on it and you have counterweight, you'll have to push up on the back of the counterweight in order for it to slew correctly. But right now it is pretty balanced and it does spin very nicely, and you can see the ring even spins with it. Now to show the cylinders, because I'm going to make my way to the cylinders and then I'll go back to the counterweights. The cylinders are very nice. One thing I wish they would have did though is include more holes, because obviously if you have a boom, and especially if you have the jib on the screen, these cylinders right here will not hold it. So what they do is they give you two pins, and then they also give you already drilled holes in the cylinders, and you could see that the boom will rest on that, and they only give you two, and that is the lowest position that they give you, and then there's one higher. It only goes like that much. So I actually drilled my own over here, and I still have to clean them up. I haven't got around to it, but the lowest that I have mine for is like that. And you have to make sure you drill both sides, because if you don't, it puts too much stress on it. These are plastic. Unfortunately, the color is a little bit off, but if it wasn't a review, I would have never mentioned that. On the back of the cylinders, they have these, and to be honest, guys, I have no idea what those are for. But they are there. I'm being honest with you, I really don't know what those do or what they are for. And if you come over here, you can see, I mean, there really is a lot to this model. This ladder comes off, so there's no width problem for transport, and a bunch of other ladders over here. This railing comes off, the exhaust comes off. This side really isn't nothing special. It's kind of plain, it's got some detail and whatnot. But as we make our way back to the counterweights, and what I'm going to do is go to the counterweight and then go to the top of the deck and then go to the cab and then go up the boom. So now I will zoom out the camera here and turn the crane towards the counterweights. And the counterweights are absolutely huge on this crane. So if we turn over here, and I'll get a different view to show you them. Each counterweight is individual, so you can take each one off. And the one thing that I like about these weights are there's nothing underneath them. For those of you that have the Liebherr LR1300, these tabs are underneath, so when you go to put them on a truck, they don't display that well on a truck. These are completely flat, so you can show them on a truck. I really like how they're yellow. They're very nicely made. All the decaling on it is extremely nice. There are accessories to buy for this crane. One thing are extra 5-ton weights, and they're just half of these because these are 10 tons each. And the good thing about that is they even give you the little tabs to put over here, so you could hook up a chain if you don't have the stick or the rod that goes through here, because in order to remove these, you actually put a rod through there and then spin it, and then it locks in, and then you lift them off from the center. The tray itself is also very nice. As you can see, you don't really see much of it unless it's just like that. So I really wouldn't expect them to put much detail into that. Other side of the weights, pretty much the same. And I'm actually going to take them off so I could show you the top of the rig. So the top of the crane is very nice. One thing I have to say is there's a lot of yellow on this model, and it's a good and bad thing, but this top texture over here, this black, which would represent anti-slip texture, really adds a very nice touch. You can even see there's even diamond plating over here. These are the two winches for the crane. Spectacular winches, really nice. The only complaint that I have about these winches are that sometimes the line will jump the drum and go over here, and then I'll get caught up in the spring, and that did happen to me, and it was a mess. But besides that, great drums. They even have locks. If you notice, it'll push out and then it'll lock into place over there. This one works a little bit better because it's not messed up, but I think there's a little bit of string left in there. But anyway, I will show you how the drums work and the tool that they give you to work them. And one thing that I really don't like about them, not the way they work, but the tool. So they give you this tool right here, and what it does, it inserts into here, and if you notice, it won't turn like that. You have to push the drum, and then it will spin freely either way. And the same goes for this one. This one I've always had a problem with. The one thing I don't like about them is it's very hard to move the drum because a normal person's finger can't fit under there, so sometimes you gotta do like a quarter of a turn each. This one isn't that bad, as you could tell, but sometimes the drums get stuck. They are a little tight. At least on mine, when I do turn them, you could tell sometimes there's a hard spot each turn that you do. But regardless, they hold the hook very well, and they're very nicely made. The string is very nice too. It's very similar to Muskie Master, if anyone does know what I'm talking about there. And I'm just going to put the weights on it real quick. And we'll go to the cab, and then we'll make our way up the boom. So the cab itself, spectacular once again. There's really only a few words to describe this crane, or at least model, and it really is very nice. Cylinders on it all are very, very good. They're not so good in the fact that since the cab comes off the arm more over here, it does seem to want to, pull back. So it can get a little bit annoying like that, and sometimes if it is up all the way, the cylinders won't hold it. But for the most part, it is very nice. All the movement on it, as you could see, it is a little flimsy, and sometimes it's hard to hold. You could even see right here. But for the most part, it is very nice. I normally just display mine like that. It seems like it levels better like that and will hold better. The cab itself has the warning over here, the texture over here, and the railing. And the inside of the cab really isn't anything special, and I know that comes to it a surprise to all, but as you could see, really isn't anything special. But I guess you don't really buy this model to look at the cab, but it could be a problem to some, is what I'm trying to get at. Now, going on to the boom, this part will be very hard to display, so I apologize if the background isn't all white. The boom itself is humongous, as you could see. I'm just going to zoom in quick and show some of the smaller details, and then I'll actually go in depth with it. Now, one thing I want to say is I'm not going to show this review with the windmill tip or the angle tip or with the Y-Guy super lifts, because I really don't care for the model with that. And I'm sorry if you were looking for a review with that, but if you are, I guess gotta look somewhere else, because I'm not going to show it with that. But anyway, here's what the boom head looks like. It's got 5 metal sheaves to my best knowledge, up here, and also has the warning stripes. These little tabs right here are for the Y-Guy super lifts, I believe. I'm not exactly sure. I believe that they should be for that. Here's the LMI. These hold the Y-Guy super lifts, and each section comes out extremely smooth. There's really no problem with them coming out except for maybe one or two, but that overrides the rest of it. One thing I have to say again is this boom is removable, and it'll be easier to review like this, but one thing I want to show you before that is the heavy lift tip, and it's this piece right here, and it simply goes on like this. I don't want to drop it, so I guess you could say I'm going to put it on very quickly, but it goes on simply like that, and then it gives you enough sheaves to put this hook block on it. And I'll actually review this on the white paper, but I just wanted to show that a little bit. Each section over here, and it'll be easier to review the other boom over here, has bolt detail, as you can see. So as the sections get bigger, just the bolts get a little bit bigger. It's really nothing crazy. And as for the rest of the insides of the booms and everything, exactly like this. It's all flat. It's really nothing crazy. But we'll give it very but for the most part, and sorry for the interruption, but for the most part, very nicely made, just not so much detail. But to get to the heavy lift tip, extremely nice piece. Even has the ladder on it. All sheaves are metal. You could just tell from looking at it, it's even a very heavy piece. These are for the Y-Guy super lifts. And you got two sheaves coming off top, so I guess you could run your block and a whip line if possible. And the weird thing about it, and I guess this is for transport, but it actually comes up like that, because I guess the transport on something flat, it wouldn't transport like that, so I guess you put it like that. I really don't know, and I also believe that you could even put your windmill, not your windmill tip, the smaller tip for the jib on here. I believe that's what that's for. Don't quote me though. And these even roll, and all the sheaves roll perfectly. And it's really just an insane model to have. One thing that I do want to point out on the boom is if you look underneath it, you have these right there, and then those right there. And what that is for, that's for the WSI boom transporter model. And I don't know if NZG knew that when making this model, that WSI was going to come out with that, and they did it together, or it was just made from the real machine, but it will connect to that boom transporter, and I think that's just a very cool feature. It's just crazy how they both connect together. It might just be that, you know, they took the perfect measurements. And like I want to say again, I didn't review the model with the Y-Guys or the windmill jib tip. So if you were looking for that, like I said, you're not going to find it here. And one last thing before I conclude the review of the crane without the luffer. And I'm sorry that I missed this before, but you notice the back has the lights and the ladder and whatnot, and the axles turn as well back here and everything. So hope you enjoyed this review of the crane, guys. I know it's only two parts. It's only the features and the detail, but the build quality, as you can tell from the detail, is some of the best out there. I hope you enjoyed the review. It's really a beast of a crane, and I'm really should have got this sooner. A lot of people always told me to get it, and I never listened because I never really liked the look of it. But to sum it up, if you don't have one, get one. If you're, looking to get one, oh, that's not good. If you're looking to get one, and you're not sure whether to get one, just get it, because it seems like they can't produce enough of them for people to get. But I know this is a long review, but it is a very expensive model, and I don't think someone looking to buy one would want to see like a 4-minute review. But the next review will be of the luffing jib, and then I should include the luffer and the extension in one video, and then I'm going to have assembly videos on it, because although you do have the NZG instructions, some things aren't too clear. But hope you enjoyed this, guys, and take care.